Hello aspirants, welcome to PW OnlyIAS English channel. I am here Harpreet Singh with the daily analysis of the Hindu from 21st September 2024. Let's begin today's analysis. The topics that have been taken for today's analysis are Gaganyaan and Vision 2047, Judges appointment and the delays associated with that, PM Solar Scheme, the concept of curative petition, blue renewable energy, and national achievement survey. Now let us understand each of them in detail. Let's analyze. There was an article that mentions about the Gaganyaan mission, but along with that, the Vision 2047 has been mentioned in various newspapers, including the Hindu. So what we are trying to tell you is, what is the Vision 2047 with respect to the various space programs? Because there has been an approval by the Union Cabinet. So let us analyze what that approval is and what the Vision 2047 with regard to the Indian space programs is. Let's begin. The Union Cabinet has approved the funds for 4 space projects of ISRO in line with the Vision 2047, where we want to see a country as a developed country. Now see, we will be understanding each of these projects in brief because they are important not only from the perspective of your mains examination, but also your preliminary examination. And also, if a question comes, let us say in your prelims or for that mains or even in essay, that how do you see India as a developed country? So you need to analyze the various aspects and along with it, what government is doing in order to achieve that particular goal. So with respect to the space programs, let's see. First, Chandrayaan 4 mission, which is slated to be launched in 2027. What is the goal? See, it will lay the foundation for India's plan to land astronauts on the moon by 2040. Now, this program does not make the astronauts go to the moon and land there. No, it is laying a foundation or creating a base so that when the astronauts go and land in moon in close to 2040, that is a tentative date, all the base is cleared for that. So what does this basically mission does? It will have 5 modules across 2 separate launches. 2 separate launches which is designed to land on moon, collect samples, store them in the vacuum container and bring them back to Earth. So that means various researches are going to be done through this program where more samples would be collected and brought to Earth, so that this will form a base so that when the astronauts, the Indian astronauts go to moon, by 2040, we have a lot of data how to deal with the circumstances, situations, because the atmosphere isn't there. So how they're going to be, how the planning is going, processes are going to take place. So for that, this is basically laying a foundation. Please remember, you can be asked in your preliminary examination that this program will take the astronauts to moon. That would be wrong. It is laying just a foundation or creating a base or a congenial environment for the astronauts to go to moon in by, let us say, 2040. So this is one of the projects or various very important project, Chandrayaan 4 mission. Next, Venus orbital mission. Now the tentative date is 2028. Now this is the second planetary mission after the Mars orbital mission. So what are the objectives? See, surface and subsurface stratigraphy. So it is going to study the possible layers, how Venus or Venus dimensions are, or let us say what its compositions are, or what are the stratigraphic sequence that possibly is present in Venus. All these dimensions would be studied in detail. Next is the atmosphere. What is the atmosphere composed of? How it is different from the Earth? Is there a possibility of life there or not? Then ionosphere study. Now see, as we study, we have ionosphere in our atmosphere also. So it is there in Venus also. So what is the composition? What is the composition along with it? What is the response to the sun rays with respect to the ionosphere? All these dimensions would be studied, and how it is different from that of the Earth's ionosphere. That is a very, very important dimension over here. So it is a comparative study also, and getting to know more about the planet Venus. Let's move ahead. When we talk about Gaganyaan and Bharatiya Antariksh Station, that is the Indian space station. This is the third project. Now, please understand, Bharatiya Antariksh Station, that is BAS, is planned to be the India's own space station for scientific research, which is planned to be operationalized by 2035. Now, see, we all had assumed or thought that one day India is going to have a space station. So, this is here. As we have a vision for a developed country by 2047. So, similarly, according to that, we are planning to have an India's own space station by 2035. So, with respect to that, the cabinet has approved the first module. There are various modules. The first module of BAS to be completed, let us say to be completed by 2029. So, this does not mean that complete approval of all the modules have been given. It is only with respect to the first module. Clear? Next is revised Gaganyaan program. Now see, we all know that it aims at the human space flight to the low Earth orbit and completing 8 missions by 2029. So see, if we are planning to take in future the astronauts to moon, let us say by 2040. So for that, we have to prepare ourselves through various programs. Now, this is a manned mission in which the astronauts are going to the lower Earth orbits and then they will return, right? Now, in order to go to moon, or let us say even go for further explorations, all these programs are a precursor or required or necessary. And along with it, if we want to establish the Indian space station, we should be prepared with all the researches, all the preparations, all the test flights, and along with it, Gaganyaan mission is basically a precursor to the aim of going to moon and even further. So that is why this is a very, very important aspect, which basically places India at a very important position in the geopolitical aspect and also with respect to the space development and research. When we see it is next generation launch vehicle, right now we know that if you have to go to lower Earth orbits, the limitation is close to, let us say, 10 tons, which has to be raised to 30 tons if we have to lead to the establishment of a Indian space station. The payload capacity has to increase, more load has to be carried. So we need to have more or a better launch vehicles in order to achieve that. So the new launch vehicles that are being, the amount is being approved for ISRO is that greater payload will be there. So that requires better technology for the launch vehicles also. So this is an aim to increase the payload by 3 times. Now this will help to carry more load. Let us say if you have the Indian space station there, you will have to carry a lot of, let us say, not only the astronauts, but also a lot of stuff that is required there with respect to, let us say, scientific instruments, let us say food, packed food, or whatever be the case. For that, we need to increase the payload capacity also. And that is where comes creation, or let us say having new launch vehicles. So that is what is the fourth component when we are talking about the approval that is given by the Union Cabinet. Now, these 4 projects, basically, if implemented, if done properly, will place India at a very, very important position with respect to scientific research. Now, this is one of the pillars with respect to India moving towards achieving the status of a developed nation by 2047. So this was approved, and this is very important for your preliminary examination as well as the mains examination. Let's move ahead with the next topic. Next is appointment of judges. Now, Supreme Court asks the government to explain the delays in the appointment of the judges. Now, please understand, this is one of the themes which repeatedly comes in the newspapers, that there have been delays in the appointment of the judges, there is pendency, there are vacancies and all. First, we need to understand that what are the delays and what are the vacancies that are there. And then we need to understand that why this theme keeps on coming up. And for that, you need to understand the process of appointment of the judges. Firstly, what the Constitution tells you. Secondly, what has been created because of the judgment, that is the collegium system. Then we need to understand a little bit of NGAC and what is the current status right now. That is the reason why there is a lot of dispute between the executive and the judiciary, and this dispute basically leads to the delay in the appointment of the judges. Now, to begin with, please understand, if I take a brief analysis of the statistics, we realize that with respect to the cases pending, more than 60 lakh cases are pending at the High Court level. More than 80,000 cases are pending at the Supreme Court level. This forms the higher judiciary, and even many times more cases are pending at the local courts. Vacancies, if you see, greater than 340 vacancies in various high courts, and with respect to the Supreme Court, 2 vacancies are there. Now, when we see this analysis, we can very well say that if, let us say, the vacancies in the high courts and the Supreme Court are, let us say, not there or they're filled, it will basically help in resolution of the cases at a much faster rate. That is why when the Supreme Court mentions why there is delay in the appointment of the judges. And for this, we need to understand the appointment mechanism of the judges of the High Court and the Supreme Court and where the bone of contention basically lies. Let's begin. Appointment of the judges. Please understand that these are 2 articles that I've mentioned. This is what the Constitution provides, right? When you see the Constitution writes this or mentions this with respect to the appointment of the judges of the High Court and the Supreme Court. What does Article 124 states? It states that Supreme Court judges should be appointed by the President. That means they should be appointed by the President after consultation. Please remember the word consultation over here is very important because that will form or result in various cases arising. So please understand. After consultation with such of the High Court and the Supreme Courts as the President may deem necessary. Right? After consultation with the judges of the High Court and the Supreme Court as the President may deem necessary, the Chief Justice is to be consulted in all appointments except for his or her own. What does this statement mean? This statement means that the judges of the Supreme Court would be appointed by the President. And in that case, consultation would be made by the judges from the judges of the Supreme Court and the judges of the High Court. And in case of appointment of the Chief Justice is to be consulted for appointment of all the judges except in the case obviously of his own appointment, right? So this is the basic article that is mentioned in the Constitution. With respect to the state, what does it mention? The High Court judges shall be appointed by the President after consultation with the Chief Justice of India. CJI is Chief Justice of India and the Governor of the state. Now, Article 217 is with respect to the appointment of the judges of the High Court. It says that again, they are also to be appointed by the President of India. And over here, the consultation with the Chief Justice of India and the Governor of the state has to be made. The Chief Justice of the High Court concerned too can be consulted. That means in the case of the appointment of the judges of the High Court, the Chief Justice of that High Court can also be consulted. So you would have realized this, that these 2 articles give you a brief idea how the Constitution provides for the appointment of the judges. Repeating it again, the judges of the Supreme Court are appointed by the President, where consultations in these appointments can be made from the High Court and the Supreme Court judges, right? And obviously the Chief Justice of India is consulted in all the appointments of the judges except for his own appointment, obviously. With respect to 217 article, the judges of the High Court are appointed by the President again. The Chief Justice of India is obviously consulted, along with it the Governor of the state. In this case, the Chief Justice of the High Court, that particular High Court where the judge is being appointed, can also be consulted. Now, this was the provision that the Constitution gave. But what happened is that a new system came, that is by the Supreme Court itself. It created a new system. Let us see what that system is, and then will we see that how the system was created. And this is because of this system, there is a conflict between the executive and the judiciary. Now see, this system is known as the collegium system. What is the meaning of collegium system? The judges in the higher judiciary are appointed through the collegium system. Higher judiciary means the Supreme Court and the High Court. Now see, collegium comprises, remember that, the collegium comprises the Chief Justice of India at present and the four senior most judges of the Supreme Court. Now this is the collegium at present that we have. So the collegium comprises the Chief Justice of India and the four senior most judges of the Supreme Court. Now remember, this collegium decides the appointment, the elevation and the transfer of the judges. Appointment, that means judges are to be appointed, let us say, at the Supreme Court, or let us say for the High Court also. Or for a judge, let us say a judge or a Chief Justice of a High Court to be elevated to the position of a Supreme Court judge, or transfer of judges from one High Court to the another High Court is also decided by this collegium that comprises the Chief Justice of India and the senior most judges of the Supreme Court. Now, this concept or this collegium concept is not mentioned in the Constitution. It is nowhere mentioned in the Constitution, but has been established through the judicial pronouncements. That means this system that has come up is because of the various judgments that the courts have given or the Supreme Court has given. Now, please understand, this was never in the Constitution. Now, what the Constitution provided is with only these two articles, 124 and 217. But what has come up is the collegium system. How the collegium system has come up? Let us understand this. Because of this collegium system coming up, there is a clash between the executive and the judiciary, and that is the reason why the executive, let us say, delays its approval for the appointment of the judges, and that leads to the grievances on the part, as we had seen in the article. Let's move ahead. How the collegium system evolved. Now see, before this case, the appointment of the judges were taking place as we have seen provided by the Constitution of India, right? The Constitution of India provides for Article 124 and 217, the procedure told. This was a system through which the appointment was taking place. Now what happened is, in 1981, which is popularly known as the first judges case, there was a case, in the case, the Supreme Court basically pronounced or gave a judgment. Now please understand, this was with respect to what does the word consultation basically mean. You all remember that I had told you, remember the word consultation. That means like the president has to consult the judges of the High Court or the Supreme Court. So the word consultation came into a problematic situation, that whether this consultation is voluntary or is it necessary, is it binding or not binding. Like the president is consulting the judges of the High Court or the Supreme Court. So is it binding or not binding, or the president can take his decision on his own? Obviously, it is basically president is the ceremonial head. The judgment is taken by the government and president is bound by that. So basically means whether the executive involvement over here should be there or not. So that was a basic bone of contention. The word consultation has to be interpreted. So with respect to this particular case, the Supreme Court said that appointment of a judge of a Supreme Court or a High Court, the word consultation in Article 124 and 217 does not mean concurrence. Does not mean concurrence. That means when the consultation has to be made by the president, it doesn't mean that the president might agree to what is the consultation or recommendation that is given by the judges. So that means over here, president will take its decision. That means what the government wants, who should be appointed in the position of a judiciary, could have been done. So what does this judgment gives? This judgment says that consultation from the judges of the High Court or Supreme Court by the president is not binding. So what does this judgment place or gives an outcome? It gives the executive the primacy. What is the executive? The government. Now the government, based on this judgment, what do we understand? That the president can basically consult the High Court judges and the Supreme Court judges, but their recommendations will not be binding because it does not mean concurrence. So what will happen? It will place the executive at a higher pedestal with respect to the appointment of the judges. At a higher pedestal or at a more important position with respect to the appointment of the judges. So this judgment gave executive the primacy over the judiciary in judicial appointments. That means this judgment said that what is mentioned in Article 124 and 217, where the consultation has to be made by the president with respect to, let us say, the CGI or the judges, That is not binding. That is not binding. That means the same set of opinions should be there. That is not necessary. That means this basically gave the executive body a upper hand with respect to the appointment of the judges. So till now also, the collegium system is not established. That means what is mentioned in the article 124 and 217 is something that is going on. But it was the second judge's case that changed the scenario completely. Second judge's case in 1993 overruled or reversed the decision of the first judge's case, over where the Supreme Court said that it basically gave the birth to the collegium system. It said that we are overruling the first judge's case, and it said that a collegium should be there which would comprise of the Chief Justice of India and two senior most judges of the Supreme Court. Please remember, by this case, we just had CGI, the Chief Justice of India, and two senior most judges of the Supreme Court as members of the collegium. Not four. Four were done in the later judgments. Right now, this judgment basically gave the collegium as comprising the Chief Justice of India and the two senior most judges. Now, this scenario completely changed the appointment procedure, because the Supreme Court said that the appointment, elevation or transfer would be in the hands of the collegium. That is why it gave birth to the collegium system, which gave primacy to the judiciary. That means it is the judiciary and judiciary alone which is responsible for the appointment, transfer or elevation of the judges of the High Court or Chief Justice of the High Court to the position of a Supreme Court. Now, do you realize what is mentioned in Article 124 and 217 is something changed completely. It's completely changed. So this is what is known as the second judge's case, which gave birth to the collegium system, where the role of the Supreme Court with respect to the appointment, transfer and elevation occupies the major position. As we move ahead, third judge's case is, in this third judge's cases, it basically expands the definition of the collegium. In the previous case, we had the collegium comprised of the Chief Justice of India and the two senior most judges of the Supreme Court. Now the collegium comprises the Chief Justice of India and four senior most judges of the Supreme Court. So this particular judgment basically expanded the collegium. This was the role of the third judge's case of 1998. Now, what happened? Now it is the Supreme Court which is playing a major role with respect to the appointment, with respect to the elevation, and with respect to transfers of the judges, because the names of what the collegium used to decide used to go to the government, and the government used to have, even after, let us say, considering the applications and all, they would forward those names to the president, and the president had to sign it and the appointment would be made. What is now happening is, please understand, under the collegium system, it is the Supreme Court judges, the CGI and the four senior most judges who are deciding the names. They're forwarding it to the government, but the government is delaying the names by delaying the list being forwarded to the president, because the executive feels that why is the judiciary only helping, or let us say selecting the judges who are going to be appointed? Where is the involvement of the executive? The executive is lacking. That is why sometimes certain names the executive might not agree to, so their names are delayed. And when the names are delayed, the names are not forwarded to the President of India, and the appointment of those judges are delayed. That is why this delay comes. The reason behind it is that the executive is not playing a role. That is why the executive probably delays the forwarding of the names that have been recommended by the Supreme Court's collegium. Now understand, fourth judge's case in 2015. Now, to go back to why this judgment or this case came up, as the government came up with 99 Constitutional Amendment Act of 2014 and National Judicial Appointment Commission 2014. What actually this led to is, this led to an appointment of a National Judicial Commission, right? National Judicial Commission, where the aim was that to replace the collegium system, because the executive felt that it is like a monopoly of the judiciary where they are transferring, elevating, and they are creating a network where only the judges are responsible for any appointment or elevation, or let us say transfer. And there has to be a role of executive also. So what happened is that it came up with a National Judicial Commission, which would be responsible for, let us say, suggesting the names and shortlisting them and play a role in the appointment of the judges, not completely the judiciary being involved. When this constitutional amendment was passed and this act was passed, this case came up in front of the court, Supreme Court declared it unconstitutional, and after declaring that unconstitutional, it basically meant that the collegium system will continue. So this is the major problem. Because the collegium system is continuing, it is basically leading to a problem, that is, there is a, let us say, a cold war of fight between the executive and the judiciary. And that is why the names, as I have told you, already delayed, and which leads to the delay in the appointment of the judges. Now, as we move ahead, we see the problem with the collegium system is it is opaque. We do not know how it is working, how you are selecting the judges, or how the names are being recommended by the collegium. Scope of nepotism. Nepotism, there have been reports that very limited set of families, let us say close to 100, 200 families are there, which have had larger number of judges, larger number of people being judges in the various high courts and supreme courts. So there is, people say that there is a set of nepotism that might be there. Next is exclusion of the executive. Again, there has to be some checks and balances which are not present. That is why exclusion of the executive again creates an issue, because where is the checks and balance? Next is no predetermined procedure of the appointment. See, we do not have a standard operating procedure that the appointment of a judge would take place based on this criteria. It is solely the discretion of the collegium. So that also creates a lot of problem. Let's move ahead. This was what we had to study with respect to this topic. Next is, there was an article which talked about innovation projects and PM solar scheme. Please understand that this is important with respect to renewable energy, and also various initiatives were taken by the government. And over here, the scheme itself is important. See, the PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana itself, this is an English name for this. This is by the Ministry of Non-Renewable, has announced a sub-component for innovative projects. Now, what is this sub-component for the innovative projects? It basically says that individuals and companies can suggest or give ideas which could be incorporated in the project itself. So that is why government has basically come up with some funding for the innovative projects, where if people at an individual level, groups or companies suggest that this particular thing can be done under this project, and if it is innovative, if it is acceptable, it is practical also, then that can be implemented. This is a means of creating or boosting creativity, innovation, an atmosphere, research and development at a grassroots level and till the organized industrial network. This is something that this article deals. But if you are reading this article, you should also know what this particular scheme is. Let us see what the scheme is. See, the scheme is that the Union Cabinet had approved this 75,000 crore PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana to benefit 1 crore families. Now, what it is basically, it is a central scheme to promote solar rooftop systems, right? On the rooftop, having the solar panels, rooftop system should be there, by providing substantial financial subsidies and ensuring ease of installations. So that, what is this scheme doing? It wants to boost solar rooftop installations. For that, the government is providing you subsidies also and aiding you with respect to the installation processes also. So this is going to be very useful, let us say, with respect to energy security, boosting renewable energy resources. So that is very important with respect to the aim of the scheme. Now let us see. Objective. It aims to provide free electricity to 1 crore households in India who opt to install the rooftop solar electricity units. Now, this is again a major objective which basically aims for the people to adopt the solar rooftop system. So this is a very innovative scheme, a luring scheme, where not only getting the electricity supply free of cost to these people, but also boosting the renewable energy supply, right? Let's move ahead. Implementation agencies. At the national level, it is a national program implementation agency. At the state level, these are state implementation agencies, which can be distribution utilities or companies which are called DISCOMs, or the power on the energy department of those respective states. Role of discoms or distribution companies. These are responsible for facilitating the various measures, that is to promote rooftop adoption, timely inspection, commission of the installation. So they are responsible that there is proper installation, repeated checking also, and basically what more people adopt the rooftop solar installation. So this is the role of the discoms. As we move ahead, now this is the major component with respect to the subsidy, because if you see the the solar rooftop, it is by itself is expensive, because if you want to install at a larger scale, it will cost a huge sum of money. So what government is doing over here, it is providing you subsidy. It is providing 60% subsidy for solar systems up to 2 kilowatt hour capacity and 40 with respect to 2 to 3 kilowatt hour capacity. Between this, if you are installing, then 40% subsidy and 60% subsidy till this capacity. Now, this is again a very luring thing, so that more and more people basically adopt this scheme and use this scheme. Then there are other components also. Model solar village concept. That means a particular village would be, let us say this scheme would be implemented in a particular village, which would act as a model for the other villages and other places also to adopt this particular scheme. Next is incentive for the local bodies at the panchayat level, at the municipalities level. Incentives would be given so that more and more people basically adopt this scheme. So this is a very important scheme which is important with respect to the boosting of the renewable energy. So what are the benefits? It will give economic benefits. It is solar power generation. If this implemented properly, according to the government of India, it will add close to 30 gigawatts. Low carbon emission, because if this is installation, if this is basically implemented at a proper scale, we will see that the carbon emissions will reduce close to 720 million tons equivalent. Job creation, according to various reports by the government of India, this alone in a long term can create 17 lakh jobs directly. So this is a all side, if you see, is a very beneficial scheme for an all-round development of the energy sector as well as all the stakeholders that are concerned. Let's move ahead. Next is the concept of curative petition that was present or mentioned in the newspaper. Let us understand what is the concept of curative petition, because you repeatedly come across this word. You will be coming across, let us say, some judgment being given. Then you will be coming across word, let us say, review petition, then curative petition. So we will be analyzing this word. Review petition also and curative petition, will differentiate between them. But let us understand what curative petition basically means. So the concept of curative petition was evolved in Rupa Ashok Hura versus Ashok Hura case in 2002, where basically this concept of the word curative petition came into the normal parlance. What is the purpose? Now, the purpose is to seek relief against a final judgment order of the Supreme Court even after the dismissal of a review petition. Now see, sometimes what happens is a judgment has been given. Now when a judgment is given, there is an option for the person to file another petition within 30 days. Now that petition is known as a review petition. Now even if the review petition is, let us say, dismissed, then there is a case where you can file a curative petition. Now that is what we are talking about. So that is why it says to seek relief against a final judgment or order that is passed by Supreme Court even after the dismissal of a review petition. That is why curing something, some problem has happened, or as a means to resolve even after the final judgment, that is why it is known as curative petition, right? So what we see over here, essential conditions for filing the curative petition. This can only be filed if there is dismissal of the review petition. We will see what review petition is. Please understand, if a judgment is given by the court and within 30 days you can again appeal, and that is basically a review petition, right? So post the dismissal of the review petition also, if this is done, then you can file a curative petition, or in case you feel there is breach of natural justice or some judgment has been given which is against the concept of natural justice, in that case you can again file a curative petition, right? Now understand what are the circulation to the senior judges, how basically this process takes place. Now when you have to file a curative petition, what happens is petition is circulated in the bench of 3 senior most judges. Now bench, that means the judges who are sitting there, it will comprise of the 3 senior most judges of the court, along with it those judges who had given the judgment, along with it the judges who had given the judgment. That means the senior most judges, along with the judges who gave the judgment, they would be sitting there. A petition, that is the curative petition, which is filed, let us say, because post dismissal of the review petition, or it is against the judgment was against the natural justice, you file them in front of them. If the three senior most judges plus the judges who gave the judgment, the previous judgment which is being challenged, if the majority agree that the case needs to be taken up again, only then it is accepted, and that means the curative petition is accepted. So this is the process. As we move ahead, what are the constitutional background related to this? Please understand, Article 137 talks about empowers the Supreme Court to review its own judgment. It is a constitution which itself says that the Supreme Court has the power to review its own judgment. That is why this concept of curative petition, review petition all have come up. Because of a judgment given by Supreme Court, you can again review it if you feel that possibly some injustice is done. Right? Second is Article 142 grants the Supreme Court the power to pass any decree or order to ensure justice. This is related to the natural justice. That means Supreme Court under this article can overturn any act, any judgment that is there passed by any, let us say, wing or organ of the government also. This is a very huge power, that is Article 142. So that means in order to ensure natural justice, even the acceptability of curative petition would not be wrong, even after, according to the Supreme Court, a final judgment has been passed. So these two articles basically give a backing. Now please understand, I had told you about what is curative petition and review petition. Please understand, a review petition is a legal remedy where the party seeks to review a judgment given by a court, right? A judgment given by a court. On the other hand, it is a legal remedy to review petition is dismissed. When a review petition is dismissed, in that case, a curative petition is filed. Purpose is to correct a apparent error in the judgment, such as factual or legal mistakes. In case of a curative petition, it is in case of miscarriage or some natural justice has been violated in that case. If we take the grounds, discovery of, let us say, new evidence has come up that was not available. Let us say an error apparent in the record, or let us say some grave injustice has been given to the judgment that was given, then you can file a review petition. But over here, violation of natural justice is the most important thing. When we move ahead, time limit, it must be filed within 30 days of the judgment that is delivered. Now, this does not have any fixed time, right? Next is bench, heard by the same bench that is delivered the original judgment. That means if you have to file a review petition, it would be heard by the same bench of judges who had actually given a judgment. In case of the curative petition, it is heard by the three senior most judges of the court along with the judges who basically gave that judgment. So this is the difference between curative and review petition. I guess it is clear. Next is, this is an article that came up which talks about blue renewable energy, and it mentions about integrated ocean energy atlas. So we are moving ahead with this. Please understand a brief of both of them. Integrated Ocean Energy Atlas. Now, this is something that was launched by the Ministry of Earth Science. This is world's first atlas that provides a combined and individual assessment of the blue energy resources across India, India's exclusive economic zone. That means in order to harness the blue energy resources, which we basically will talk about, you need to have some potential it is there or where it is feasible. So this atlas basically maps that out. Now the question would come, what is exclusive economic zone? Please understand. Supposingly this is the coast of India. Now a baseline is a line which basically connects the various edges along the coastline, because it is very difficult to go inside and measure it. So all the projections that come out of the coast are connected by a dotted line. See, like this is a projection. If you go inside, then it will be very difficult to calculate. So what happens? The projections that are coming out, they would be connected by a dotted line. This forms a baseline. From the baseline, 200 nautical miles, that is 370 kilometers from the baseline, is the exclusive economic zone of India, or for that matter any country, right? 200 nautical miles from the coast is the exclusive economic zone. Now over here, we are talking about that it is the first world atlas that provides a combined individual assessment of the blue energy resources. That means in this area, how we can harness the blue energy resources, that is what is being mapped by this particular atlas. Now the question would come, what are blue energy resources or renewable resources? We will be studying that. Please understand, this atlas identifies the daily, monthly and the annual energy potential of tidal, waves, currents, and other blue renewable resources. Blue renewable resources. Now, what are blue renewable resources? Please understand, it refers to the energy derived from natural marine sources, energy that you can derive from the natural marine resources. Let us say from the waves, from the tides, from the currents, from the osmotic pressure. That means differences in the, let us say, salinity. Let us say the fresh water and the marine water has different salinity. You can use that difference in the salinity in order to create energy also. So these are the blue renewable resources. Now let's move ahead. Last topic. In today's newspaper, we had National Achievement Survey. Now, please understand why this is important is we have been hearing, let us say, the ACER report by the Pratham NGO. We have seen that the status of education in India is in a poor condition. Poor condition in the way, in spite of having right to education, we realize that people, let us say students of class 5 are not able to do simple arithmetic of class 2. So because of these scenarios, we realize that a comprehensive assessment of the school education system and what are the real outcomes should be assessed. Now, this is in the process that is done by Ministry of Education in order to actually assess what is the standard of education at the ground level. Now, see, it is a nationwide survey to assess the learning outcomes. That means you are learning, you're doing it, going through the education process. But are you benefiting? What are the learning outcomes? And the health of the education system. It is the largest nationwide sample-based education survey conducted across India. It is done by the Ministry of Education and it is a triennial survey. That means it is happening after every 3 years. Last happened in 2021. Now it is happening in 2024. That means after 3 years. That means every 3 years it happens. So the thing is that it provides system level reflection of the effectiveness of the school education system. That means at a ground level, what is the real state of the education or the schools or the children's learning outcome? It covers the whole spectrum of schools. That means it is very important, and your prelims can be asked. The national, when we talk about the National Achievement Survey, does it cover, let us say, only the government schools or the private schools, or the private schools are not covered? This itself can be asked. That is why, please remember, it covers the government schools, state and central, and also government aided schools as well as the private schools in order to get a holistic picture of the school education system. Now, this is what was from today's current affairs analysis. You can download this particular PDF from my Telegram account, which is present over here. You can scan the QR code. We will be coming up with newer initiatives. Let us say I'll be posting certain MCQs questions also on a repeated basis in your Telegram account. We will be coming up with more prelims oriented, let us say, pointers, tidbits also in the coming time to make it more holistic. We will be improving as we move ahead. We're trying to analyze it from a very holistic purpose. We'll be adding the prelim specific content also in the coming days. So be with us. Enjoy this journey of learning. Enjoy this beautiful journey of understanding what is going around you, and along with it being target oriented, because simply putting all the details in the current affair analysis doesn't mean. It is important what has to be read for the UPSC examination is important. So this was me, Harpreet Singh, signing off from PW OnlyIAS today's current affairs session. Hope you enjoyed that. Take care and Jai Hind.